The gods of Asgard feared many things: frost giants, the end of the world, the slow unwinding of fate itself. But of all the terrors in the 9 realms, one filled them with a dread they could not speak aloud. It was not a giant. It was not a god. It was a wolf. A wolf they themselves had raised. A wolf they had fed by their own hands, watched grow at their own hearths, and then, out of fear, betrayed. His name was Fenrir, and this is the story of how the gods created the very monster that would one day devour them, not through his evil, but through their own. His story begins not in the wild, but in deception. Fenrir was the son of Loki, the trickster, the shapeshifter, the most cunning of all the gods. His mother was Angrboda, a giantess of the wild lands beyond Asgard, and Fenrir was not their only child. He had a brother, Jormungandr, the great serpent destined to encircle the entire world, and a sister, Hel, who would come to rule the kingdom of the dead. 3 children of chaos, 3 shadows cast across the future of the gods. From the moment of their birth, the seers of Asgard whispered of doom. These were not ordinary creatures. They were prophecy made flesh. And the wolf, they said, was the most dangerous of all. For the seers had looked into the threads of fate, and what they saw turned even Odin's blood cold. The prophecy was clear. The wolf child Fenrir would grow. He would grow beyond any chain, beyond any wall, beyond any power the gods could raise against him. And when the world reached its final days, at Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, Fenrir would break free. And he would kill Odin, the All-Father, the wisest and most powerful of all the gods, swallowed whole by the wolf they had raised. This was the future written in fate. And Odin, who had given his very eye for wisdom, understood a terrible truth. A prophecy once spoken cannot be unmade. But still, the gods would try. Here is where the story turns from myth into tragedy. Knowing the prophecy, the gods made a strange and fateful choice. They did not cast Fenrir out. They did not destroy him in his cradle. Instead, they brought him into Asgard, and they raised him among themselves. The young wolf grew up in the home of the gods. He was fed, he was sheltered. He walked among the Aesir as one of them. And one god alone was brave enough to come close to him: Tyr, god of war, of law, of honor. While the others kept their distance, watching the wolf with fear in their eyes, it was Tyr who fed Fenrir. Tyr who earned his trust. Tyr who looked into the eyes of the great wolf and saw not a monster, but something almost like a friend. For a time, it might have seemed the prophecy could be wrong, that love might be stronger than fate. It could not. For Fenrir grew, and grew, and grew. Each day he was larger, stronger, more terrible to behold. His jaws widened, his shadow lengthened across the halls of Asgard. And with every passing day, the fear in the gods' hearts grew darker. They looked at the wolf they had raised and no longer saw a creature in their care. They saw the prophecy drawing closer with every breath he took. They saw their own deaths growing teeth. And so the gods made their decision. The wolf had to be bound, chained, removed from the world before he became too powerful to stop. But they were cowards in their fear. They would not face Fenrir with honesty. Instead, they chose deception. The same deception that had been in his blood since birth would now be turned against him. They came to him with a game. "Fenrir," they said, "you are so strong. Surely no chain could ever hold you. Let us bind you, and let us all witness your might as you break free." It was a challenge to his pride, and the wolf, young and proud, agreed. They brought a mighty chain called leading, a fetter of heavy iron. They bound the wolf in its links, and Fenrir simply flexed his body, and the chain shattered like brittle ice. The gods praised him, and they came again with a second chain, Dromi, twice as strong as the first. Again Fenrir allowed himself to be bound. Again he strained and kicked, and the iron burst apart and flew across the field. Twice now the wolf had proven himself unbreakable, and the gods began to despair. No chain forged by any hand could hold him. So they turned to a deeper kind of magic. Far below the world, in the caverns of the dark elves, lived the dwarves, the greatest craftsmen in all creation. And to them, the gods turned for help. The dwarves forged a fetter unlike any other. They called it Gleipnir, and it was not made of iron, nor steel, nor any metal of the earth. It was woven from 6 impossible things: the sound of a cat's footsteps, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, and the spittle of a bird. 6 things that do not exist, gathered into a single ribbon, smooth and soft as silk. And yet, within it, lay a power no strength could break. For how can you tear apart something that is made of nothing at all? When the gods held Gleipnir in their hands, it looked like a child's toy, a delicate band, light as air. But it would hold the wolf until the end of the world. The gods brought Gleipnir to Fenrir, and once again they offered their challenge. "Bind yourself with this," they said, "and prove your strength one final time." But Fenrir was no longer a naive pup. He looked at the slender ribbon, so thin, so light, and he grew suspicious. He knew somehow that there was magic here. He knew that a band so delicate, offered with such eager smiles, was no simple test. And he spoke words that revealed a wisdom and a sorrow beyond his years. "If this ribbon is made with trickery," the wolf said, "then though it looks like nothing, I will never be freed from it. And if you mean to deceive me, then I will not let you bind me at all." The gods fell silent, because of course, the wolf was right. So Fenrir made them an offer, a test of their honesty. He would allow himself to be bound by Gleipnir, but only if one of the gods would place a hand inside his jaws, as a pledge, as a promise that there was no deceit. And the gods looked at one another, and not one of them moved. Not one of them, except Tyr, the one god who had fed Fenrir, the one who had earned his trust, the one who, of all of them, the wolf considered a friend. Tyr stepped forward. He looked into the eyes of the wolf he had raised, and he placed his right hand, his sword hand, into the great jaws of Fenrir. The wolf allowed the binding to begin. The gods wrapped Gleipnir around him, and this time, when Fenrir strained against it, when he kicked and twisted and pulled with all his terrible strength, the ribbon did not break. The harder he fought, the tighter it held. The magic was absolute. And in that instant, Fenrir understood. He had been betrayed by all of them, but most of all, by the one he had trusted. His jaws snapped shut, and Tyr's hand was gone. The god of honor had given his hand as the price of a lie. He had known he would lose it, and he had stepped forward anyway, because someone had to pay for what the gods had done. The deed was done. The gods dragged the bound wolf to a desolate, lonely place. They fastened his chain to a great boulder driven deep into the earth. And to silence his terrible jaws, they wedged a sword between them, holding his mouth open forever. And there Fenrir lay, betrayed, imprisoned, howling in endless rage and grief.
From his open jaws, a river of foam flowed without end, a river the Norse called Van, expectation. Because the wolf was not destroyed. He was only delayed. The gods had not defeated fate. They had merely postponed it. And in doing so, they had poured all their cruelty into the heart of the one creature destined to end them. Every day he spent in chains, his hatred deepened. Every day the prophecy drew nearer. They had made him a monster, and now they would wait for him to become it. And so the ages passed. The wolf waited, bound beneath the darkening sky, until at last Ragnarok came. The twilight of the gods, the end of all things. The chains that had held since the beginning of time finally snapped. Fenrir rose, free at last, grown vast beyond imagining, his lower jaw scraping the earth, his upper jaw touching the sky. He swallowed the sun, and the world fell into darkness. And he came for Odin. The prophecy the gods had fought so hard to prevent, the future they had betrayed a child to escape, came to pass exactly as it had been foretold. Fenrir met the All-Father on the final battlefield, and he devoured him whole. But the wolf's vengeance was brief, for Odin's son, Vidar, fell upon Fenrir and slew him at last, avenging his father. And so both were gone, the god and the wolf, the betrayer and the betrayed, swept away together in the death of the old world. For in the Norse vision, the end was never truly the end. From the ashes of that final battle, a new world would rise, green and reborn.
But remember this, when you hear the name Fenrir, he was not born a monster. He was a child, raised among gods who feared him, trusted by one, and betrayed by all. They looked into his eyes and chose deception over honesty, fear over love. The wolf did not destroy the gods. The gods destroyed themselves the day they decided to fear him. If this story stirred something in you, there's more of the wild and the legends it inspired waiting here every week. Subscribe and listen for the call of the wild.